Welcome back to Old School Sports and our OOTP 22 playthrough with our rebuild of the New York Yankees. We are coming off a very disappointing 76 and 86 season in terms of how we did with our goals. Obviously, the record was disappointing. We improved our batting average modestly. Attendance numbers were up. But the big thing that we did do that was very positive was rebuilding our farm system. When we took over a year ago, the system was ranked in the mid-20s, I believe. And at this point, we have improved the farm system to the point where it is ranked 6th out of 30 teams. How did we do it so quickly? Obviously, a fair amount of luck. Got some decent prospects in some of the trades we made last year when we tried to offload some of the salaries that we didn't want to be tied to for a long period of time. One of the things we did do is we bumped up our scouting budget to $18 million and our development budget to $26 million. That definitely helped us in at least one way. You can see we now have the number 23 prospect in the world with Juan Palomo. He is an international free agent signing that we did last year. Hope that he can develop into a good young starting pitcher. Can see he's got good potential, but he's also got a lot of ways to go. But he only recently turned 16, and he's got strong work ethic and strong intelligence. So hopeful that he will reach his true potential. But the real difference maker for us is Jose Montoya, 16-year-old, who is the number one prospect in all of baseball at the age of 16. And you can see looks like he could be a very good defensive shortstop and probably a great defensive second baseman. Excellent work ethic. And you can see potentially has plus contact, gap power, home run power, and avoiding strikeouts. And he was just a pure scouting discovery back about 3 months ago in late August by our scout. So just an example of having a really good scout, Damon Oppenheimer, and also investing in scouting, paying off for us in obviously the addition of our top 2 prospects in the system over the last few months helped fuel that rise to the 6th best system for us. Still have Jason Dominguez and Alexander Vargas, and then our 5th prospect is Diego Cartaya, who we got in a trade with the Dodgers last year. So we have made some progress rebuilding the system, and although our 76 and 86 record was clearly disappointing, when I look at some of the players that we got rid of last year, I really wouldn't change anything. You'll remember we traded away Aaron Hicks, who's making about $10 million a year for another 5 seasons at this point. Kind of a average offensive player and a mediocre defensive outfielder. He only played in 83 games for the Dodgers last year with a OPS of 89 and a WRC plus of 93, so kind of remains a below average offensive player. We traded away Joey Gallo, and he was probably even worse than Hicks. He played a bit for the Dodgers. He was part of that trade that I just mentioned. And he did so poorly with the Dodgers, batting under 100, that they waived him. And then he went to Cincinnati, where he played the rest of the season as a regular time starter. Did hit 30 home runs with 76 ribbies, but a 158 batting average and a 707 OPS led to an 89 OPS plus. So although we had a bad season, I don't see how having had Gallo around would have made it any better. And then a third major trade that we made was getting rid of Gary Sanchez. And you can see with Cleveland, he played in 92 games, 308 at-bats. He's now got a torn meniscus that happened with a couple weeks left in the regular season. Batted .211, which is actually higher than he had batted for us either of the previous seasons, but 737 OPS, 97 OPS plus with mediocre catcher ability. It's hard to say that if we had kept a lot of these people, we would have been any better than the 76 win team that we were last year. So feeling that we need to maybe accelerate the rebuild this season. Obviously can't have another losing season, and don't expect to. Thinking about what we need to do to keep ownership happy. Going to have to play 500 ball. They're asking us to upgrade at catcher from Christian Vasquez, who I kind of liked. Not a great offensive player, but more productive than Sanchez was, and much better defensively. Wants us to steal more bases. We'll see whether or not that happens. And then wants us to sign Didi Gregorius. I don't know if we're going to re-sign him. We're going to have to do something different at shortstop, either by bringing him back or signing a free agent, or potentially turning the position over to Fletcher, who played second base for us last year, but could certainly be a passable defensive shortstop, and maybe would allow us to have LeMahieu go back to playing second base on a regular basis, hopefully give us a little more offense, and then hopefully either Pavin Smith or Jake Lamb can take over as first base. But again, even if I construct the team a certain way in my mind, it does not mean that Boone will use the players that way. So as we begin this offseason, don't have a ton of money available for free agents, and honestly, with the addition by subtraction that we tried to do last season with Hicks, Gallo, Sanchez, and others with big contracts, I think we're going to try to do the same thing this offseason. I think it's time for us to try to trade away Giancarlo Stanton, see what we can do with that unwieldy contract. Right now, between him and Judge, we're going to be spending about $60 million a year over the next several seasons for fragile players who are injury prone, who also play left field and right field, not particularly important defensive positions. It seems like a real big investment for us to be making in those two players, neither of whom plays a premium defensive position. I just don't think we can have that much money wrapped up in two players who could, miss more time than your average player in any given moment. And particularly with Bellinger coming off a bit of a rebound season for him, 115 OPS plus and a good defensive center fielder. We've got him for arbitration coming up. He's going to be likely a few $1 million more than he made this season, but we'd rather invest that money in a younger center fielder. So I think that we're going to look to try to trade Stanton in this offseason, which will open up a ton of money for us. And then the other move that we will be making relatively shortly is I think we are also going to try to trade away Luis Severino. We have an option for him coming up this year for $15 million. He still has the skills to be an above-average starter, but he was brutal for us last season in his first kind of full season in several years. I think he may be worth more for us to see what kind of prospects or players we can get back from him. And then, potentially dealing away Severino in addition to Stanton, I think are two of the key moves that we can think about making, which will help open up a lot more money for us to spend on free agents and for extensions. And then obviously in the coming weeks, we'll also be thinking about arbitration and who we want to potentially pay and let move on. So we will report back on how the off season is going, but at a high level, that is our plan. Well, it has been a crazy off-season for the New York Yankees, but we are in April and we are near the start of the 2023 season. You'll remember that we mentioned we were thinking about trading either Giancarlo Stanton and or Luis Severino. Well, we ended up needing to do a blockbuster to get rid of Stanton's contract. We had to also trade Josh Majewski and Jack Neely, a couple of minor league prospects, plus Severino. To the Red Sox. All we got back was Josh Winkowski, a potential starter, and minor league catcher Ronaldo Hernandez. But this trade opened up about $45 million for us in money for the 2023 season. Also got us out from that potentially crippling contract with Stanton. So this trade will determine what happens in the American League East for the next several seasons. If Stanton and Severino are both healthy and performing at their top level, it's going to be real hard for us to compete with the Red Sox. If they both are injury prone, we've probably crippled the Red Sox by making this massive trade with them. So that opened up a ton of money for us, which we put to good use, we hope, through the rest of the offseason. A few days later, we traded away Urshela. His arbitration number was getting pretty large. And in return, primarily, we got the left-handed reliever, Andrew Chafin. And that was kind of it for the big trades in November. In December, made another trade, trading a minor league catcher, Josh Bro, as well as several other minor league prospects to get second baseman in the minors, Nick Gonzalez, but most importantly, Jacob Stallings from the Pirates, who's going to likely be our starting catcher this year. Not really something that we were looking for, although Hal Steinbrenner did want us to upgrade catcher, and this was a modest upgrade for us. Not as strong defensively, but still, 65 catcher ability. Hopefully not going to hurt us too much there. And a much more league average type of bat behind the plate, which is valuable. So after doing all these trades, we had opened up a ton of cash, and you will see here shortly that we put most of it to work on a single day in January. Crazy day right here. We added Aaron Nola, starting pitcher from the Phillies, to a 5-year contract. We added Xander Bogaerts, the shortstop from the Boston Red Sox, who will be likely playing third base for us, it appears. And then we added a second top-notch starter in Sean Manaea. We went all in. The trading away of the big contract that Stanton had, as well as letting Boston deal with the expensive option on Severino, opened up a ton of cash for us. And we figured you can't ever have too much starting pitching. So we will see how that goes, but we feel like we're loaded. And then we added Andrew Benintendi to kind of be a utility outfielder for us later in January. Then the calendar moved to February, and we had a little bit of money still left, and the Steinbrenners then increased our budget for the season, which opened up some more money, and we went a little nuts. Noah Syndergaard, more injury-prone than the previous two pitchers, the starters that we picked up, was still sitting there. Signed him to a 1-year deal, a little over $5.5 million per year. You can see has only pitched in 7 games over the last 3 seasons in the majors. Huge risk here, but huge upside. And for a team like the Yankees, hey, we'll take a shot at it. And then we went and signed Max Muncy. He was lingering on the free agent wire, and we felt like we needed a bat. He probably is going to slot in as our DH most often, it appears, but definitely a solid bat with very good home run power, and he can draw some walks. So we are taking advantage of our huge budget as a large market team, and we're going for it. Very different roster than the Yankees had just a year and a half ago when we took them over, and we're going to see what this 2023 season looks like when we get into the action. So taking a look at our salary chart here, you can see we've now got a big number of very highly paid players that are locked up for several seasons. So the ability for us to continue to adjust the roster is going to be smaller than it has been in the past. The one kind of negative piece of news is that Garrett Cole seems to be rapidly declining, at least according to our scout. His movement and his control are still where they were, but his stuff has really taken a big turn downwards over the last several months of last season into spring training. Clearly, that contract at $36 million a year for the next 6 seasons still could become really painful for us. He has won back-to-back Cy Young awards for us, so we're certainly not going to cast him to the curb right away, but makes us feel even better about the fact that we did bring in Nola and Manaea. We still have Jordan Montgomery. We signed Jameson Taillon for a few years as another guy who probably is going to end up hurt a lot of the time, but hopefully can give us some good innings while he's healthy. And then our big free agent signing from last year, Rodon, out for another couple months, but we will have him coming back hopefully midway through the season to really bolster our rotation. You can see here Cody Bellinger. We had an option year for him, or a final arbitration year for him this year, and we were actually able to extend him for 4 years and $100 million. The horrible news was that in spring training, he suffered a broken bone in his elbow, and he's probably out for the entire season. Perhaps if we get into the playoffs, he'll be able to join us then. But that leaves a huge gap in what we were trying to do offensively. Definitely lose a middle-of-the-order hitter that was critical to us. No one's going to feel bad for us because we're the Yankees. But it means that Estevan Florial will be our starting center fielder. You can see he's decent at actually playing the position, but he has pretty good physical characteristics to be out there. And, hopefully average major league bat, but at 25 years old, he's finally going to get some significant playing time for this season while Bellinger is out. So that was the one really bad piece of news in spring training. Other than that, we're very excited to see how this expensive lineup will perform for the Yankees. And see, we do have a little bit of money left for free agents and trades. We cut our ticket price somewhat this year and sold a lot more season tickets. That contributed to, as I mentioned, the Steinbrenners about 2 months ago, increasing our budget, which was helpful. And we also ramped up our scouting budget and our development budget to hopefully continue developing our minor league system. You can see we're up to 3rd overall. We're going to keep investing in the minors, and hopefully we are going to put something together that, with the huge budget we have and hopefully some really strong minor league players, is going to result in long-term dominance for the Yankees. So in our next episode, we will be playing the 2023 season. A little bummed that we're not going to have Bellinger for it, but Rodon will be back by mid-season. Hopefully no other significant injuries, and hopefully we can make a big step forward with this team, get back into the playoff race. Our goal is only to play 500 ball, but our expectation is that we need to be a playoff team. We'll see how the upgrade at catcher went. Haven't really paid a lot of attention to stealing more bases. Our thought is that if we are as competitive as we think we should be, and we can get into the playoffs this year. The Steinbrenners will be fine if we are not as responsive to a few of their other requests, and will hopefully sign us to a nice big contract for several more years to come back and continue leading the team. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll be back with our next episode, the 2023 New York Yankees. Have a great day.